Hello, friends. Rich here at the Gospel Rescue Mission with another GRM staff training. All right, so we are working to help individuals and our community to flourish with God leading the way. All three of those components are highly important. As we make decisions, as we're working with our shelter guests, we have to say, is God leading the way with this? Or are those individuals going to flourish if I do this, make this decision? Also got to look at, is this going to help my community to flourish? It might be good for the individual, but not so good for the community. We have to take that into account, and always, and this is true for all 16 of these traits that I'm going to be talking about throughout this training, is that we have got to allow God to lead the way. God is going to show us. There's science out there that might have some great information. There might be some great podcasts and books and such. All those things are great. But regardless, before you actually start implementing things, go see God and say, God, is this for me? God may say, yeah, that might be for you, but you got to go see a doctor first. So anything we talk about, make sure that you're connecting with God first and foremost as you develop these traits within yourself. So today we're going to talk about the leadership trait of physical, taking care of ourselves. That way we have the energy, the stamina, the endurance, the strength to be able to work alongside and with these men and women that God has called us to serve. What are we going to do? We have to take care of ourselves. This is not necessarily about trying to get a nice selfie, look good on the beach. All those sort of things might be personal motivations for you. But really, what we're talking about as a leadership trait here is what can we do so that way we can physically have the energy to do what needs to be done to serve these folks to the best of our possible ability. As a missions major, my undergrad I was a missions and Bible major, and one of the things on the mission side of this was a history of missionaries. And even in those days, I was always surprised by how many of them made the history book of missionaries who never actually preached the gospel on the other end. They did great work on preparing, getting the booklets together, maybe studying the culture they were going to, but they would get sick or die the moment they arrived on scene at the next place. They did not take care of themselves, and so they could not take on the sometimes harsh environments, whether it's cold or tropics or whatever it was. They could not handle it. We step into a kind of a dangerous position on a regular basis here as far as our physical health goes. There's a lot of germs and bacteria and a lot of those sort of things are out there. So we got to take care of ourselves so we can be effective servants of the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, that is our main purpose here, serving God. So some things that we can be doing, and I encourage you to do is first move. They did a study on this, and that exercise is a little bit like Prozac and a little bit like Ritalin. So movement, exercise, and movement is just walking around. Exercise is getting your heart rate up to a certain level. So movement and exercise kind of fit into that same club. But a little bit of Prozac, a little bit of Ritalin. Basically what the science is saying is that if you do those things, you're not going to need those pharmaceuticals. And I find it interesting that most of our partners who work in the mental health field, they don't even take this into consideration. This is not even an option for them. But we have seen this happen with some of our shelter guests who start to run or take exercise, that maybe they don't need as much of those pharmaceuticals to be able to function. So for us ourselves, we have a stressful job. We have you have the challenge of working with me, but you also have the challenge of some of these shelter guests and each other, and all these things can create stress. Exercise is going to have a mental impact on you, and you're going to be able to function much better if you'll get up and move. So my one recommendation in this area, you'll have to talk to a doctor if you're going to do something more excessive. But I want to recommend that every hour you take time and say, okay, it's 10 minutes till I'm going to get up. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to do 250 steps. If you don't have a fancy watch or some other tracker, then at least just walk around the building. If you walk around the Miller Family Center for Life Change, that's about 250 steps. You're going to get that in. I try to do that at least 12 hours out of every day. Sometimes I have meetings. Sometimes I have other things that I can't do it every single hour. But I make it a goal that every day I'm going to do at least 12 hours. And so because I get up early, I can usually get several bonus hours in. But we want to make sure we're moving, exercising, getting your body out moving. That's going to help you become more effective. We got to eat healthy. You can't live on ding-dongs and ho-hos and Twinkies and drink nothing but pop and monster drinks and that sort of thing and expect to be able to function long-term. You could survive on that, but it's not going to give you the endurance, the strength to be able to continue to do that service. Really interesting accidental study that took place. There was a juvenile detention center in New York State and they had some supply chain issues. And an amazing thing took place where so they had to grow their own food for a season. And during this time, they had all these vegetables, all these things, and not a lot of processed foods came in during that. So they were eating mostly vegetables. They had some a local cattle rancher gave them some meat, so they had some locally grown stuff. And because they were eating healthier, they actually watched their violence rate plummet. So again, it's helping our mind, helping our spirit to eat right and to know those things. So again, study yourself, figure out what's going to be best for you. I'm not going to recommend any particular way of doing of that, but I'm going to say drink a lot of water, eat a lot of vegetables, and you're probably going to be all right in most cases. So know yourself, but also do a little research, find out what's going to be best for you and your body type. Sleep. Sleep is one of those powerful tools that if we will implement in our lives, we're going to be able to become more effective. And you got to, again, know yourself. Do the research. You want you to flourish. And so for you to flourish, you got to know what your kind of sleep is needed. For me, historically, most people 8 to 10 hours. I do really well at 6. If I get under 6, I have a challenge throughout the day. I'm not as energetic. I don't do as well. I don't cope as well with some of the stresses that come in my job. So I know myself. So you got to know yourself. You might be an 8 or 10 hour. Kara's a 10 hour. If she gets that, she feels really great and she can function. If she gets less than that, she's not quite as effective, not quite as quick on giving answers, those sort of things. So we want to make sure that we're taking time to get that sleep. And then you do what you can to help your sleep. So some of the recommendations are cut out all digital and about 2 hours ahead of time. I've changed my own time where I'm not checking emails right before bed. So cut out digital, an hour or two before you go to bed. Get darker, and so I have a sleep mask that I put on. I have a weighted blanket that helps out with sleeping. So whatever it's going to take, but study what it's going to take for you to get whatever it is that you need and get the best quality of sleep you can possibly get for you. And then the last part that's most important really again is praying. Say, Father, what do I need to do? Jesus, help me to know how to take care of myself. That's going to work well for me. It's going to help me work for my family because relationships are a key component in our physical health. The book Healthy at 100, recommend that book. It's pretty impressive. But they studied 4 cultures that the average lifespan is at least 100 years old. And so when they studied these folks, they figured out that some of the things they had, that they all had different diets, they had different things. They all had that movement thing going on, though. They all were moving even at 100 years old. But the one thing that was the most common denominator was that they had relationships, healthy relationships. And healthy relationships, God-honoring, healthy relationships are going to have a difference. So pray for those God-honoring, healthy relationships to be in your life, not just with immediate family, but extended family. Anything you could do so that way you can take care of your body and be most effective with serving those that we've been called to serve. So again, I thank you. Again, contact information in case you don't have it, but would love to continue to have this conversation and draw you closer to where you are building that trait of physical health into your leadership. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.